Hi there, this is Linda, and in this video I'm going to show you a look into my daughter's albums and how I'm going back in time and documenting those older stories. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, you guys, I've gotten so many questions about how I document my daughter's albums and keep these albums. And I wanted to jump on here today to share with you guys a look through her albums and where they are so far, and give you my best tips and ideas for how you could do something similar. So a little bit of background before I dive in. I have 4 albums here for my daughter's childhood. My daughter is currently 19 and in college, and I have made the decision that I'm not going to keep separate albums for her going forward. This is just from birth through her start of college. I decided I did want to do all of that, like college search and moving in and all of that. But beyond that, now that she is not going to be living at home and I don't see her on a daily basis, I'm not going to be documenting her every day. So I also wanted to share that these albums are all works in progress. Nothing is done, but I'm okay with that. I'm happy about that. If I said today, my daughter's 19, I need to go back and document the last 19 years, that seems very overwhelming. And so that is not what I do. Instead, I decided to break her albums up. And so this is volume 1, and I created these labels, and I showed those a little bit in the intro. And this has years 2005, which is when she was born, through 2010. So my first tip is to set up a framework for your albums. Now, it doesn't mean that this album is done, but I know that this album is going to include those first 5 years. So I started here with her birth story. This was using the Hope Story kit. And then it's just blank. Here's a photo of her, just a little page. I mix and match sizes. I mix and match page protectors, whether I'm doing pocket pages. Here are all these babies first. Here's winter 2007. So I'm just jumping around in time, putting things in generally in chronological order and working in the various sizes that I do. And this way I can add to this as much or as often as I want. I don't have to worry about saying this album needs to be completed. So here's a layout I did this year using one of the Cocoa Daisy kits. And basically what I do is I found this kit. I was going to create a project, and I thought, what photos, what story do I have going back in my archives of all of the years that would fit this kit? And I remember these photos from back in 2007, and it's currently 2024. And I pulled up the photos and I created this page to go in here. Here's another one I did. I did this, I want to say I documented this in 2021 using a Stories by the Month digital kit. A lot of these are creative team projects. Some of them are not. This one I think is the Learning Story Kit. Here's just a fun little page I made. I think this was for my class. Here's one using, I think this was a Freckled Fawn kit. Yeah, so a lot of these are creative team projects. Some are just story kits, whatever's prompting my feelings or my thoughts of what I want to document. Here's the first day of kindergarten. So I just jumped around. So if I decide to go back and document something from preschool, I will find a way to stick it in around here. I will see if it's 8.5 by 11, maybe it'll go here. If it's a pocket page, I might make it fit there. Or I could just add another page protector. I don't have a plan to finish it. I think at some point I will decide, that it's pretty full and just kind of fill in the gaps, but I'm not worried about that right now. So my main first point to you is to set up a framework. Choose your albums, create the spine labels, decide if you want cover pages. You might want dividers between ages or grades. I don't, so I didn't put anything like that in here, but I would say set up your framework first, so you have the space to fill it in as you go. Another tip is to put memorabilia and products in pockets to remember where to use it. So here I have some of these folders where I put some stuff here, like just kind of memorabilia, photos, everything I have from that time. So I had some photos that were already printed, but they were probably film at that point in time. Here's just like some random thing from 2005, some art that she did that I had, and just like a few different things that I have, like memorabilia that I'm going to want to work into her album. Here's a bunch of art she did, and just a bunch of random things that I will eventually work in to some pages. And then some of it will not. Some of it will definitely be, you know, like just in here. Like I won't make a scrapbook page of her art, but I will keep the art in her album. So I will either decide, okay, this art is just going to be its own insert between some photos, or I might take photos of it and make it a smaller pocket page. I don't know yet, but I like that I have a home for all of this as it's a work in progress. So moving on to her second album. So her second album goes 2011 through 2019. And that is a really long year range. And so that brings me to kind of my next tip, which is just do what works for you. So I split her childhood into 4 albums, and you will see the last 2 albums are much shorter time frames than the first 2. And that's simply because that's more recent. That's when I'm scrapbooking. That is what I'm feeling like scrapbooking. This one basically holds 1st grade through 8th grade. And you will see I don't have any elementary school stories told. This is some 7th grade stuff. Her 14th birthday I did. This is using the Celebrate Story Kit. And then I had kind of started to try to do some things, but I didn't finish it. So I was using a sticky note to identify, like, this is some 8th grade stuff I wanted to do here. And this was a trip that we took to Florida, and I just printed some photos and stuck them in here, and I never created a page. I will come back and create a page, but I at least have a start in here. And here, I believe this was like an 8th grade dance. I printed all these photos, and I printed these with the intention of making a page here. I never did. I will do that probably when a story kit comes up that makes me want to document this story and that maybe fits this, so I can leave this how it is and just create this page. So my tip that I was trying to say is to do what works for you. So this is a lot of years in one album, and that's because I don't want to put pressure on myself to go back and do every single grade in order. Here's 8th grade graduation, because that's okay if I skip it. I'm okay with that. And then my next tip, which I kind of mentioned, is to use sticky notes to identify sections and stories that you want to tell. So here I kind of said, look, here is where I'm transitioning from 8th grade to 9th grade. This is the summer of 2019. And that's kind of how I decided to end this album. I have this one page documented from the summer of 2019. And then I have some memorabilia in here that I will probably work into a project at some point. But this is definitely the one that has the least stories told, simply because I just wasn't documenting in this way at that time. And now when I'm going back, I'm just not as motivated to do those stories, and that's okay. This one I would say is the most complete. This is 2019 through 2021, so this is volume 3. And this is her freshman year through the first half of her junior year. Actually, maybe her entire junior year, but it's at least like the first half or 3/4 of high school. And so here I also have one of these pockets, and this just has some products in here that I wanted to use in her album. And I haven't even looked in here in a while, but I have just shoved some products in here that made me think of her, or I want to use in her album. So my daughter's name is Summer. So a lot of times products say summer on them. So this says like Forever Summer and 10 things I love about summer. Like, these would be great products to use in her album, and I'm sure I will at some point. But for now, I just kind of stuck them in here so I have the reminder to use them in this album. Then I have a pocket page that my plan is that this is going to be like a cover page for this album. I think eventually I will create cover pages for each album that might have like photos that span the dates in that album. I'm not sure. Here I have this really cute vellum paper that says summer on it that I definitely want as like on that cover page, but that's just in progress. Then here I have her first day of high school document. I have a sticky note here just to remind myself this is where 9th grade starts. So if I'm adding more stories, then I know if they're from 9th grade, they're going to go in this section. But I do want to point out and like kind of clarify that I do create these out of order. So something like this might have been created way before or way after this one. It doesn't really matter. Once I made this one, I just knew, oh, this goes in 9th grade. Let me just stick it in here. And this was probably like the friendship story kit. And then here was her school photo. I have report card in here. Here's just to hold some additional ephemera. And then here I have the sticky note. I wrote out some additional stories from 9th grade that I do want to tell that I haven't yet told. And this kind of gives me kind of a prompt for if I'm planning stories with a story kit or I want to document something in our album, I can look at this and say, oh, this is a story I haven't told yet. Maybe I should do that one. Here's, her Halloween. I documented this with a page I made as part of the Allie Edwards creative team using one of the digital kits. I just came back and I picked, the kit was very Halloween focused, October focused. I just came back and picked a random Halloween that I wanted to document, and I did. And I threw it in her album where it made sense. And then here's a 9th grade recap. This is probably another story or stories by the month one for the Allie Edwards creative team. Creative team projects really prompt me to go back and tell some of these stories. Then another way that I create stories in here. So a lot of these are prompted because of a story kit or stories by the month kit or some kit I want to work with. Another thing that I'm doing this year, and I have shared process videos here on YouTube and I've shared some photos over on Instagram, is when I get my monthly kits from Cocoa Daisy, every month I'm doing a recap of that month in 2020. So here's January, February, March. And if I have another story from this time, it'll just sandwich it in here if I make it. There's April, then here's, this was the watch story kit. I probably made this one way back in 2020 and it's just been sitting here. And then I made this recently and stuck it in here. It just flows. Here is her 15th birthday, which I documented using a stories by the month, probably when I was on the Allie Edwards creative team. And then here's the May recap using the Cocoa Daisy kits from 2024. So if you want to go back and do like monthly recaps, I would say that's a really great way, especially if you want to use pocket pages, to add in some stories. And then you can add in those bigger stories in between the pocket pages. Like here's one using the kindness story kit where I kind of wrote her a letter that's hidden and I included that here. But you can do these monthly recaps, and a really easy way to do that and make it manageable is to go back and do 1 month at a time as the monthly kits for whatever subscription you use or whatever kits you're using or products you're using to document the current month. Go back and also do a monthly recap from a specific year and just work on 1 year at a time. It doesn't need to be a lot. It can just be, right now I'm doing 2020. So you can see 2020 is way more filled in than a lot of the other years because that's what I'm focused on now. Here's July, then I did this project that's an insert. Here's August, and then I haven't done September yet, so we have space for that. Here I have a sticky note identifying we're moving into 10th grade. Here was a layout I did documenting her room. A lot of the projects I did in here were for my Plan Prep Play class as well. This one is from a story kit. This was probably creative team project for Allie Edwards. Here I have her Christmas list, so I just again have some ephemera stuck in here. This is an incomplete one. I had my daughter write down some stuff on these Love This Teacher cards from the Teach Story Kit way back then. Had her write it, and I'll throw in some other stuff from 10th grade in here eventually. Here's a project I did using a specific kit. It's another story kit one. This was probably one of the quarterly scrapbook kits. And just, you know, maybe I just had this photo and I was like, I want to document this photo. I want to play with product. Here, I just stuck it in. This one I know I did more recently with a Cocoa Daisy kit. This was a story kit. Here I put in some essays that she wrote. I just printed them out, copy and pasted them from whatever she sent them to me, and printed them out using, I think this was the Right story kit, just to add a little bit on here. This was a layout I did recapping kind of spring of her junior year. Another layout with her cousin. Here's cross country. So you can see things are kind of coming together in this album because I have worked on this one much more. This I think was the Glow story kit, which I think was also this one. So I think what I did was I was working with that story kit and I was like, what are some stories I can tell that would fit in this album? Here's one from the summer of 2021. Here is cross country from the fall of 21. And I just kind of fit them in here as it made sense. Here's the Care story kit. This is from her, sorry, should have given a warning for that one. You might not want to see that, but that's from the orthodontist. Here's the Start or Begin. And then this one, can't remember what story kit this was. Maybe like, I can't remember. But this was a story kit documenting her junior prom, her braces, and then this was the prom she went to junior year, and her hair, and then just wrapping that up. And then here's like a photo I had printed and I never actually got to documenting it. That was from this time period. So it's in here if I ever want to go back and add it in, or when I'm ready to kind of finish up this album. And you can see it's getting pretty full. I might end up even changing and splitting out some of these years into another one. But for now, I have this framework that's working. And I don't feel pressure to finish it because the framework is there and the stories are here. So if she wants to come in and flip through her albums, she can. So this is senior year, and she has. And that way she can see, you know, the stories that I've documented so far. Her first car. And then here's some senior photos. And then some blank spots. Here's her room at age 17, which is very different. Just want to show you guys this. Let's find this one in here. I documented her room. Here's her room in 2020 and what it looked like going into 10th grade. So she was probably like 15 at this point. And then that same room, how she changed it when she was 17. And I love that I can see those layouts and see the comparison. Just a fun photo I wanted to document. Probably this was using a kit for a creative team project, a grad thing. And I obviously want to do way more for graduation, but I've documented one so far, so that's great. And then I have just like a bunch of ephemera and stuff in here. I have some bibs from her races. I have a bunch of college stuff. I have this one in here and then nothing else. I will do like the start of college and get some of that in here, and then I will wrap this one up. But I don't have a timeline. I don't have any pressure on myself to finish these. Whenever I feel like creating or planning projects, I always have these as like an option. There's a lot of stories left to tell, and I don't care that I don't have a timeline where I have to finish it. I don't care that there's gaps. It's a work in progress, and that's what makes it fun. That's why I enjoy this hobby. You know, I scrapbook because I like the process of scrapbooking. Yes, I love seeing the finished projects, but I love the process. So a lot of this is just that I have this available as another home for stories. I hope that you guys got a lot of ideas from this video. I hope it helped inspire you to go back and tell your older stories and create albums for your children if that's what you want to do, or for yourself, or whatever stories you want to go back and fill in. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.